3 times a week, getting my body in shape, so I wouldn't have to die quite as soon. And then because I was working out with my body, I realized that my mind didn't have anything to work out with. So I said to myself, if I'm going to die, I should get a religion so I could die well. And I bought a book by Houston Smith, and the book was called World Religions. And in that book there was a chapter on Buddhism, and I read that chapter twice. And I didn't know anything about Buddhism at the time, but it made a lot of sense to me, because it talked about how difficult it is to be a human being. When I read that chapter, it said that because we're born, we're going to have to get sick. Because we're born, we're going to have to get old. And because we're born, we're going to have to die. And that's the way I felt about it at that time. So I continued to read the chapter, and I realized, after reading the chapter on Buddhism, that there was a human being who had become perfect, who wasn't a god. Now, I like Jesus, but Jesus turned out to be the Son of God. And I realized that I would never be the Son of God. But I did think that I could be a better human being. And if I really worked hard, I could be a perfect human being. And so the Buddha said to me that all you have to do is purify your mind, purify your speech, purify your actions, and you too can end your suffering and be a perfect human being. So after reading that chapter on Buddhism, I got another book, the phone book, and I found a meditation center. And I started to meditate. And what I realized about that was it was very difficult to sit quietly, because my body hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurt, and my mind kept thinking and thinking and thinking and never became quiet. So I thought, I have much work to do. When I meditate, I suffer even more than when I don't meditate. So I continued to study the teachings of the Buddha. And this is what I came to understand. That the Buddha was born to a very good family and had a very comfortable lifestyle. But even within that comfortable lifestyle, he became aware of the suffering of human beings. And one of my favorite stories is when he went into the streets of the city with his charioteer Chana and saw the 4 messengers, the old person, the dead person, the sick person, and the holy person. And at first I thought it was just made up. I thought it was a legend. I didn't think the story was real, but then I thought about where I was born. I was born in Iowa, and I was raised in Arizona. I spent some time in Wisconsin, and then I've lived in California since 1969. And it seemed to me that my country was like the Buddha's parents, that my country didn't want me to see really old people. So they have rest homes that really old people go into, so we don't have to see them. And then when people get really sick, we have hospitals, so we don't see hospitals either. And then when people die, we paint their faces with makeup and comb their hair and buy them some new clothes and some new shoes. So we don't see death either. So I realized that my city, my state, my country was preventing me from seeing the realities of my life, that they wanted me to work, to buy, and that's all they wanted me to do. And the Buddha said, well, it's okay to work and to buy things, but it's better to be a good human being. So I continued to look at that, and then I saw too that the Buddha said in the First Noble Truth that everything that I liked and wanted to hold on to would be taken away from me. If I got a new iPod or a new car, someone would steal it, it would break, or I couldn't find it. So the Buddha said impermanence will always take things away from you. If you get too attached to anything, you will suffer. And then he said that I will find people in the world that I don't like, places in this world I don't want to be in. I'm around those people, in those places, nothing I can do about it. So he painted a pretty bleak picture. He called the world samsara. This is the place where birth and death occur. And people are always so happy when a baby is born. And people are always so sad when a person dies. And so we have many tears. Tears of joy in the beginning, tears of sadness in the end. And it's an uncomfortable place to be. So the Buddha kept talking, and I kept reading. And then he said that the reason why humans suffer so much is because we're all selfish. All we want to do every day is to hold on to the good stuff and push away the bad stuff. But because we're born with original ignorance, not original sin, like the Christians, we never get it right. We can't figure out how to hold on to the good or push away the bad because we can't see reality the way it really is. So then he said, the answer to all your problems is nirvana. Nirvana is the end of your suffering while you're still alive. Nirvana is the end of your karma, and nirvana is the end of all future rebirths. And that intrigued me because I didn't really understand what karma was at that point, and I couldn't understand what nirvana was. But I kept reading, and then the Buddha said, the way to become a perfect human being is to follow the Eightfold Path. And as I read, the Eightfold Path is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Then the monks of old took those 8 path factors and put them into 3 categories: personal discipline, mental purification, and wisdom. And so I started to see if I wanted to be a better human being, the first thing I needed to do was watch what I said and watch what I did. And the Buddha said if you want to see clearly what you say and do, you need to accept the 5 precepts. And the 5 precepts will help you change how you speak and help you change how you act.